I'm not going to say the date and the time, but I will say that the date and time for expressing a very subtle idea is my intention for the creation of this video, and it is the idea of why people who are friends on the internet are not in these groups, these chat rooms, where you can bring your people who are in your sphere, in your realm of vibration and frequency, identity, ideas, into the same space, and have mechanisms and protocols for other spaces within the space that allows for perhaps more integration with ideals that we would like to manifest in our circumstances, ideals that may seem to be challenging, involving a specific field, or maybe it's a general spectrum of fields. But I feel it's important to record right now. How do I put this? The vision of how why there is so much challenge for people to have groups of their friends on the internet in the same space. Like if someone were to invite their friends to a group. Some people do it because of an event, but oftentimes groups are very fragmented or fractured because families, when we grow up, are very, how shall we say, divided. And so the antidote, the solution, may not be able to be dealt with in our lifetime, so that most people do not fear inviting their circle into a single space with others who may have the opportunity to invite others from their circle, but to create processes, mechanisms, and protocols for groups within groups that are able to administer and facilitate the different levels of perversion, manipulation, poison that ideologies and different words and spectrums of expression can take on. And here in this government area, there's a lot of perversion of mental capacities, but there are suppression of emotional capacities that have compassion and humanity and discernment. But let me take a step back here. What is stopping us from creating a group with our friends? How close of a friend are our friends on the internet platforms? And though there's a lot of remaining work and detachment that needs to happen before there is greater critical mass, I do feel there are opportunities for people to try different experiments and visions to how, when you bring a circle together in these groups or these rooms, you can have other ways of considering conversation and consciousness integrating into our local situation, our job, our relationships, the different conditions and structures and patterns that might seem very challenging to confront and deal with in a pure intention. So with that being said, I pretty much wanted to say what I wanted to say, but I don't think there's a specific wrong way of going about this, whether people work from the online area or they work from the in-person area. I think there are ways to combine the two, but doing either or can be positive, and I think that is a great journey, a balancing beam that we are all on in this time with technology. And so in my final words, I do want to release into the universal light, consciousness, entity, force, being, presence, truth, behind the veil, the illusion, the seeming lack and sense of separation and war and torture and conflict, rape and violence, abuse, games that are played through the entertainment industry, through the various industries for goods and services. I call for the principle of exposure, of the illusion and the unreality, that anything in a position of authority, anyone in a position of authority does not have the full jurisdiction to determine our consciousness, and over the long period does not have the jurisdiction to determine the long-term circumstances of a civilization. Because the scales are shifting, the cycles are turning. And so, let there be the reverberation of the universal principle, intelligence, that aims to allow others to see there really is no other, and that there can be a reintegration of our sense of self with the civilization in such a way where we may be able to become a certain person in leadership, as I still believe that I can be the head of this house, as I applied and raised my right hand one day to protect and defend the Constitution from all foreign and domestic enemies. But the ultimate enemy is ourself, that does not see itself as one with everyone. On some level, you don't have to be this perfectionist being that sees that, oh, it's all one, it's all happy. No, it's not what it's really like. But anyways, the flags represent a type of rallying point. And ideally, flags are places of inspiration, motivation, reconciliation with our tribe, our flock, our mandala of students or aspiring leaders, to express that ideal that represents our history, our story. But the story goes way beyond the textbooks of what these flags, these borders within the idea of the flag represent. There are truths and values, but at the same time, the only thing left for me to say now is a new flag is being conceptualized. And because I'm tired, I'm going to take a break, but these are the energies that I would like to release at this time and allow others to remember. A transparent society allows us to see that in public life, nothing can remain hidden, and eventually in private life. But in the meantime, there's a vision that helps us realize that there will eventually not be a distinction between the two, because we will be so one with the consciousness of each other that we would be able to tell on some level what happens at the slightest level to the entity, the organism, the sovereign being that some call the human being, that doesn't see itself as sovereign, but uses its sovereignty to see that it is not sovereign at times, oftentimes. But with that being said, there's nothing more to say. Enjoy. Even if today is our last day in this body, enjoy the process, the dance, the grand play. Because every moment can be a new birth to a whole new remembrance of how death is unreal and the cosmic chain is ever evolving through all forms and forces, however small, however torn and distraught. So, with that being said, I envision and I invoke the leadership of the principle of the heart, the integrity of the spirit, of the laws of nature, of the quantum field that allow us to recognize we are a perception we have of ourself. Every moment, every experience, everything that we can imagine is a reflection of ourself. And yet, there is great virtue and utility and room for growth by recognizing the Creator is not another being. Ultimately, but it is all beings and another individualized being from a creator that has never separated from that other creator being and its own creation ad infinitum. And so, the Creator and the co-creators of the Creator are ever present, even if we are unaware of their presence. And in truth, we are one. And with that, I thank everyone for reflecting the fire that ever drives itself to enjoy the adventure for how we can multiply our talents and release the unquenchable, unconquerable, indescribable presence